Good evening. Always adjusting to these microphones is interesting. I'd like to welcome you to the Jerome Town Council Candidates Forum, which is being sponsored by the Jerome Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters. I am Mary Shaquin. I am the moderator for this evening's event, and I am also a member of the League of Women Voters. Before we begin, may I ask a special favor? I know every single one of you has a cell phone. Either turn them off or put them on vibrate. Thank you. This forum, as I said before, is for the candidates from Jerome who are running for town council. The purpose of this forum is to inform and educate ourselves about the candidates. As you probably have noticed, it is being videotaped by Yavapai Broadcasting, Verde Valley Television for broadcast on cable channel 2, and it will appear several times before the election. It will also be on YouTube at Verde Valley TV. I'm going to just read off the names of the candidates, whom I'm sure you all know, that are running for the council. And I will read them as they're sitting, because usually we do this in alphabetical order. But since there are 11, it was easier for me to put them in the number of the order they've drawn. So the candidate number 1 is Lou Courier. Candidate number 2, Randall Hunt. Number 3 is Christina Barber. Number 4 is Anna Bassett. 5 is Nikki Check. 6 is Abe Stewart. 7 is Steve Pontius. 8 is Bill Feeney. 9 is Frank Vanderhorst. 10 is Chad Hembrough. And 11 is Dick Freund. Douglas, I'm sorry, forgive me. It's Douglas on the ballots? Okay. See, I've made the first mistake, so now you all get to make one and we'll all be good. The process for the forum tonight is that each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves with an opening statement, and we ask them in that 2 minutes to provide their reason for running and their qualifications, and if they wouldn't mind addressing the biggest challenge facing Jerome and the town council and how they would resolve it. Following the opening statements, the candidates have been given one prepared question to answer, and they will each take turns answering it. And that question provided by us was, on the ballot is a voter referendum, Ordinance 405, regarding vacation rentals. What is your position on this referendum and why? And each candidate will have 2 minutes to address that. As the candidates are speaking, you, the audience, can be writing questions, and I know many of you have already done that, and you have 3x5 cards. If any of you have any questions that have a card, raise your hand, and we will have people come by and pick them up. You have a card done? Okay. Finish your card, raise your hand, we'll pick up the cards. What we will do then is we will have a sorter that will take and sort the cards and put them together in sort of categories, because we know that with the number of candidates and the time we have, there will only be the opportunity to ask so many questions. So we'll collate the cards, because if they're the same question 3 or 4 times, we won't ask the same question 3 or 4 times. I would ask a favor. In posing your questions, please be respectful. You know, treat the candidates as you would like to be treated as we go through the process. Before we get started, I would like to introduce a couple of people. The first is Mary Gasaway, a league member. She is our timekeeper. She will be holding up a 30-second sign and then a stop sign. The stop sign means stop. If you don't stop, I will stop you. So finish your sentence and stop, because we want to be respectful of everyone and give everyone the same amount of time. Ellie Bauer, a member of the league, will be picking up questions, and Robin Prudhomme-Bauer will be doing the sorting of the questions so that we can move through the process really quickly. So we were ready to begin with our opening statements. The first individual who will be giving their open statement is Lou Courier.
Are you ready? Is this on?
It is.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. For those of you who don't know me, my wife Mimi has a stack of resumes if you're interested over there. But I want to go on to something else. I remember an August rain, this rain tonight. Will Stone and I got soaked up on the mountain and laying 8-inch water line to the town in the 70s. I remember not much later, John Sainer and I on Verde Street, knee-deep in sludge, trying to fix Mr. Marini's sewer line. Not long after that, I remember driving the old La France fire truck up from down in the gulch, scared stiff that I'd wipe out some oncoming traffic. I remember in the early 80s, newly appointed as town clerk, trying to explain to the Auditor General we had no general ledger system, and would they please help me construct one? I remember sitting in my office in the Hotel Jerome, where the co-op is now, working with the pegboard system, preparing water bills as I tried to cover all the bases that Peggy and Becky and Joni and Lori and Rosemarie and Candace do today. I remember helping Mimi with the town's purple buses, planning the routes, doing the books, fighting the Independent when they attacked us. But then the town's accounting system was in trouble again. So Jamie Moffat and I built the town's first computerized accounting system. In the mid-90s, I was elected to council. We were commissioners then without a manager. I directed administration, finance, utilities, and zoning. I went back to the private sector in '98 and was re-elected in '08. I'm now finishing my 10th year. All in all, I've worked with or for 7 mayors, 6 managers, 8 attorneys, 4 police chiefs, 4 fire chiefs, and 7 crew chiefs. My point is, this Jerome government is a machine, and I know how it works.
Thank you, Lou.
I think I could be useful in the next term.
Our next candidate is Ronald Hunt.
My name is Randall Hunt. I'm running for the 2nd time. Last year I was inspired by a note on the post office board that encouraged people to come forth and be a part of the government, the workings of the town. And I've been doing that for 2.5 years now. And I think I almost have it figured out how this works. I'm excited about running a 2nd time. The last year I had a very simple campaign pledge. I promised to get a handicap zone striped in blue so that motorcycles wouldn't park there. That finally happened. Most recently, I was told by one of the locals, one of the residents here, about the problem with the post office, closing post office boxes. I brought that to the attention of the council, and through the help of our very able town manager, a lot of correspondence went back and forth, and as you probably know, we managed to get the Phoenix ruling overturned. So I'm looking forward to trying this again, and appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Randall. Christina.
Welcome, and thank you for coming this evening. My name is Christina Barber, but most of you know me as Alex. I am running for council because I am Jerome born and raised with a love of this town and a desire to maintain the quality of life we all enjoy and have come to expect from living here. A balance needs to be created between the busy commercial tourist side of our town and the quieter residential areas. It is a great responsibility to be voted into a seat on our council and give sway to these issues facing us today. Vacation rentals, property rights, our town code, our zoning, and the presentation of our town to the visiting public is at stake. A huge job with many hot button issues. Infrastructure, town services, water usage, streets and sidewalks all require maintenance and funds to support their use by all. Town staff, our fire and police departments, planning and zoning, design review, and board of adjustment all require funds and are supported greatly by the taxes collected by retailers in Jerome. Our property taxes only go so far. Our town crew and staff are always working to make things in Jerome better. I would be honored to join this group in planning, steering, and representing how Jerome will move forward dealing with these issues while preserving our history for our visitors and our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Ann Bassett.
I have lived in Jerome since 1980. I love Jerome. My home, my art, my council and board terms have all been about historic preservation. Our diversity, character, beauty, and community spirit enrich our lives. During my 6 or so council terms, I have fought to protect Jerome's charm and lifestyles. Our town is a wonderful refuge for artists, musicians, and all our counterculture diversity. We must not allow our well-deserved popularity infringe on our quality of life. Jerome's community spirit led to locals producing our comprehensive plan in the 70s, a time when residents survived on potlucks. The plan focused on art and history being Jerome's future, and look how well that succeeded. Our future economic health depends on Jerome remaining true and not succumbing to commercialism or trends. Perhaps our most immediate social issue is increasing housing affordable for Jerome workers and artists. During several of my past terms, Jerome could only keep patching chronic infrastructure problems. Yet I was proud to help accomplish burying a gas main that had been exposed to traffic, building our new fire station, making the contacts that led to our wetland sewer plant, and getting the roof on Town Hall replaced. More recently, we got the 2 new Sunshine Hill water tanks and repairs to Cleopatra tanks. During these last terms, much thanks to Candace and staff, we have been able to, one by one, replace weak links. During the 2014-15 budget process, we have selected several projects addressing critically needed work. I do want to see these projects through to completion. We plan to upgrade the Gulch septic system, support and rebuild the walls at the horseshoe pits, create a sidewalk out to the pit parking, and redo the Hampshire water line. Because Jerome's population is so small, we each have to work harder and more imaginatively to keep sovereign. Good reason to re-elect an artist to council. Experience counts. Vote for Ann Bassett. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Nikki Check.
So I've spent the last 2 years performing as mayor here in this great town, and it's been not only a true honor for me because I didn't ever expect to be elected mayor, but a time that I was able to gain a lot of skills and knowledge about how a town runs, but also how an effective meeting runs. I feel like some of my assets as a council person or as mayor is that I enjoy facilitating respectful discussion, being a good listener, and having meetings where actual progress is made. So I continue to be concerned about a lot of the same issues that other candidates are. Our infrastructure is something we'll always have to stay hard on top of. But also, one of the more interesting things that you might not know that's a real issue for the town is navigating our code and our policy, as it's kind of been a piecemeal effort over the years, and it's important to keep working on it so that we stay current with the times. So I look forward to serving another couple years with you guys if you'll have me.
Thank you. Abe Stewart.
Hello, my name is Abe Stewart. I've been a resident for Jerome for about 38 years. Volunteer on the fire department up here. I've worked with the town on and off through water line, sewer line projects, different things. I see the town change in the last 20 years quite a bit. I know that there's a lot of hot button discussions and issues that get brought up with the town. And I think that it needs to have a common sense approach to everything and work together as a people. A vote for me would be a vote for you guys to kind of have your opinions out there, but a bunch of common sense, and just kind of work together as a community. Keep our history, keep things alive and going for the future of Jerome. Thank you.
Thank you, Abe. Our next speaker is Steve Pontius.
Okay, I'm going to talk a lot faster than I normally do because I only got 2 minutes. My name is Steve Pontius. I live on the Upper Gulch with my wife Janice. Been here for about a little over 2 years, which is not a long time, but it's still long enough for me to learn to love this town. This is where we decided to retire. This is the last home we're going to have. We don't have a plan B. The top issues for me for this town right now is the aging infrastructure and getting repairs of the streets and the sewer lines and the water lines done. I will make you one promise. Actually, I'm going to tell you one reason not to vote for me. I got like 7 of them down here. I'm going to do one. I'm going to disappoint you if you elect me, because I'm not always going to agree with everybody. I've got a fiduciary duty to the whole town if I'm elected, not just to a particular group or particular issue or anything like that. So all of us at one point or another are going to disappoint you. So if that's not what you're looking for, someone who can think independently and do what they think is right for the town, then you might want to pass on me. And that's, how much time do I have left? Oh, a minute? Jeez. I had so much more to say. But I'm going to cut it short there. That's pretty much the basic point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And our next speaker is Bill Finney.
That was great. In 2006, my wife Denny and I were tourists in here. We didn't know why we came to Jerome, we just did. And when we came here, we found that we really thought this was a cool town, a nice, interesting area as tourists. That year, we also bought a house, we moved in here, we've been here ever since then. And I think part of what everybody does sometime in their life is they decide it's time to pay back. It's time to return something that you received from your community and your nation and so forth. And in my case, I decided that because of the small number of volunteers we have in town, it was necessary for virtually everyone to volunteer for something. And I volunteered for a number of boards and council and things. And eventually I was given a vacant position by the council in 3 years ago. And then the last time I was elected to it. What's the point? The point is, the reason why I'm worthwhile having on the council is because, like Steve, I believe in common sense. I believe that the infrastructure needs to be taken care of in our town. We need to help our town survive so that it's very much like it was when I first came here as a tourist and now as I am as a citizen. I want to serve all of you, and that's why I'm running for the council, to be of service to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Our next candidate is Frank Vanderhorst. And if I could remind the candidates, please speak into the microphone so that you can be heard not only by the audience, but we're taping this for TV so it can be replayed back. Thank you.
Thanks to the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. I'm Frank Vanderhorst. A lot of you probably don't know me, so I want to give you a little bit about my background. First of all, I'm probably running for the same reason that everyone else is running. That's because I care. Jerome is the place where my family and I want and choose to live. We've been property owners here for 20 years. My past experience includes managing many large and complex projects and programs. I've managed manufacturing plants that have infrastructure, a population, and budgets far greater than that of Jerome. I've dealt with infrastructure issues, financial problems, negotiations, contracts, and compromises. All experience needed, I believe, to well represent the town of Jerome in a proactive and professional manner. I believe the most important issue facing Jerome is sustainability. Sustainability of our quality of life, our finances, and our infrastructure. Many issues relate to the quality of life. They include parking, congestion, and oh yeah, vacation rentals. I'm concerned about our finances. It seems that some years we need to sell land or pull money out of the general fund to balance our budget. Our sales tax revenue is declining while Cottonwoods is increasing. I think these are serious issues that need to be addressed. Our infrastructure is aging, it needs a solid, well thought out plan on how we must maintain, repair, and possibly replace certain components. Our infrastructure includes things like our library, our police and our fire department, and we must make sure that they are adequately funded to do the business they need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. The next candidate is Chad Hembrow.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up this evening. My name's Chad Hembrow. I'm running for town council. When I first moved here 8 years ago, I thought I'd stay for a couple years, and it just got better, so I'm still here. I also have had encouragement to get involved in the town, and when I first started going to council meetings, it was for entertainment, and then it turned into, well, I'm going to get the facts of the gossip I hear on the street. And then it turned into, wow, I know more than, you know, the people that are just running their mouths about it, and that's empowering. And I think that's an important spot to be, is in the meetings. And I feel that I'm personally ready to step up to a position in the town to help it and be a part of it further. Some personal qualifications that I have: I'm naturally patient and kind and open-minded. I'm fearless when I need to be. As for an issue facing Jerome, I think it's what we're all talking about is how we're going to continue to live here and enjoy it and not have it pinched on. So I'm open to work on that, because that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Finally, Douglas Freund.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending this forum. I'm Douglas Freund, and I've lived here since 1995. A year and a half ago, I found myself in a pitched battle to defend our residential neighborhoods from the imposition of an inappropriate use, vacation rentals. I became immersed in the challenging realm of land use law, our zoning ordinance, equal protection, and Prop 207. Fortunately, I was not alone in this fight. I received a crash course in Jerome civics from neighbors whose combined years of service to Jerome is longer than the history of our town. This experience has prepared me to offer to serve on council. I would bring the reason and tenacity that we need on council at this critical time. I am proud to be a member of the steering committee, which is overseeing the development of Jerome's new comprehensive plan. In contemplating our town's past, present, and future, I have often reflected upon my own place here. I feel that my diverse interests complement this town, and that I have a role to play in connecting the classic period of mining and industry with the community of artists which gave Jerome new life. As an industrial historian, I have written and published books about forging technology. I am also a craftsman who enjoys working in all metals, including copper. I have worked professionally as a jeweler, as a prototype machinist, and as an industrial machinist. For a time, I even repaired underground mining equipment here in Jerome. For 6 years, I taught machine technology and jewelry at a high school. I taught blacksmithing and tool making at Stanford. I have studied the history of art, and I continue to investigate the work of the Mexican engraver Jose Guadalupe Posada and his Calavera skeleton prints for the Day of the Dead. You may have seen my exhibition at Quince 2 years ago. Serving on your town council, I will work hard to defend Jerome's residential neighborhoods and to honor our comprehensive plan. I would like to lay the groundwork for establishing a museum of Jerome art and artists, and I would like to explore new ideas for enhancing the experiences of Jerome's visitors to better serve our designation as a National Historic Landmark. Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas. And thank you, candidates. We will now go to the question that each of the candidates read ahead of time. They will have 2 minutes to answer the question. I will read it, and we will start with Randall as the first responder for the question. And the question is, again, on the ballot is a voter referendum, Ordinance 405, regarding vacation rentals. What is your position on this referendum and why? Randall.
That's for me now? Okay, from the beginning I've held...
Excuse me, we're going to start with number 2 on this one.
Okay.
Did I have the right name? Randall Hunt.
I voted in opposition to the ordinance as it was written. Early on, Bill Finney and I worked together, did some research and such, and put together a proposed sample ordinance which we thought would work. It got reworked and so forth, and as it turned out, I was experienced in how sausage is made, and the bottom line was that I didn't particularly care for how it tasted. I think we can do better. I'm not so afraid of litigation as was presented to the council by our council. I think we can we can get to a point where we can really satisfy the desire of most of the residents here in Jerome. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina?
The vacation rental thing is really but some people want it, most of people don't. People don't want vacation rentals in residential areas. People that have been around here a long time, we expect to be able to let our hair down, go away from the part where everyone works. Property rights, that is kind of an issue. The infrastructure that we have in Jerome is really fragile. We are working on it at all times. A lot of the roads that go to some of these places are steep grades. People that live there don't even like to drive down them, to have other people that aren't familiar with the Jerome roads to drive down them. Parking, emergency vehicles being able to get through. I personally, from what I have understood about them, am against them. As far as the legality of all of it, I've never been on council, so that would be something that if I was voted in, I would refer to the council and be one of 5 votes. So, thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Ann?
I am opposed to proliferation of vacation rentals in Jerome because it would decrease housing for Jerome workers, artists, and musicians, and because our 444 residents fulfill 109 volunteer positions. We need everyone who is adult and capable to keep Jerome afloat. We are covering all the obligations of a city with less than 1/4 of the population that it takes to become a city in Arizona. There are 2 sides to the vacation rental issue, both against. The argument is about method. The Sitting Council, with our attorney Sims and heeding advice from Arizona's top historic preservation lawyer, Gamage, created Ordinance 405 and Exhibit A, which details the reasons why we must regulate. 405 severely restricts both numbers of and behavior at vacation rentals to protect our neighborhoods. The opposition imagines, against the best legal advice, that our current ordinance is adequate to eliminate even pre-existing vacation rentals. Attempting this method will not succeed, but will cost big bucks. First, grandfathered businesses cannot be removed. They were allowed to come into existence and are protected by law. Second, we looked at case law from around the country and found that judges equate vacation rentals not with hotels, but with renting out one's house. Jerome has always allowed that use in residential zones. About some election booklet misstatements, 6 vacation rentals spread throughout our residential zones will not devastate our quality of life, unquote. At least 2 vacation rentals did not displace residents. They were houses saved from abandonment. 405 does not open the door for other commercial uses because it is vacations rentals ambiguity as more commercial than renting out a house that has kept bans from being upheld by judges. Defend Jerome neighborhoods from an influx of vacation rentals by the means that has the greatest chance of holding up in court. Vote for Ordinance 405. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Nikki?
So I'll start by saying that I am in support of Ordinance 405, so I say vote yes on Prop 428 to support that. But I want to tell you that I began the process of dealing with this issue with all of the concerns that Alex mentioned previously. And with that singular goal, I began to listen to all of the residents' concerns, but also really listen to what the top land use lawyers had for advice for us. And I went back through the minutes of the open meeting that we had with Grady Gamage, and repeatedly Grady said that there's a strong weight of authority that Arizona courts would construe the Jerome ordinance as not prohibiting vacation rentals in residential districts. So he suggested forming an ordinance, and that is what we worked on for an entire year. I realize that maybe this ordinance is not perfect. You all have the ordinance to read in your voting materials. But I want to tell you that supporting this ordinance is very important. First of all, if it is flawed, then it can be tweaked. If it is supported, we can change this ordinance in the future moving forward. But also you have to ask yourself, what is the highest risk that we run by not supporting this ordinance? And the highest risk that we run is that we get taken to court and we lose, and then we have no ability to defend our town from vacation rentals at all. So I'm in strong support of this ordinance, and I hope that we can continue to work together as a community to make it the ordinance that we all need.
Thank you, Nikki. Abe? And Abe, could you pull the microphone close, please?
Ordinance 405 is a very complex issue. The previous council, the existing council, has put a lot of effort into it and tried to protect Jerome. But at the same time, I think by reading through this, that it's also opened it up to the existing vacation rentals becoming legal vacation rentals and then adding new vacation rentals. I disagree with Ordinance 405. I would vote no on it. I feel that there's too many loopholes within the ordinance itself. I feel that it leaves too many things unanswered. I know that there's certain parts of it that can be tweaked, like Nikki said, and changed, but I think as a whole, as it stands now, I think it's not good. I'd like to protect our neighborhoods, our livelihood, our places to live. I understand that people would like to, rent their houses out and make lots of money and kind of change things, but I don't want to see that happen to Jerome. I like the way it is. I like our residential neighborhoods to stay the way they are. This is the lifeblood of all this whole community, is all of us living here, having a place to live. I'm not a homeowner. I rent. Other people rent that need to be here to support our fire departments, our other things. If we allowed this, then it would allow approximately 19 more to the existing ones that are already there. It's a bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Abe. Steve?
Okay, as I promised, I'm going to disappoint you right off the bat here. I'm going to reluctantly support Ordinance 405 for the following reasons. I've read this thing a dozen times, and every time I've read it, I get a different opinion of it. But the last time I read it, I tried to read it from the perspective as if I wanted to own a vacation rental myself. And I'll tell you honestly, after I read all that, I'll say, crap in it, I was discouraged. I don't think I'd want to do it. I do think it can be tweaked. I'm not fond of vacation rentals, but owners of any property have certain rights. You can't deny that. All of us property owners have rights, and they're all equal. I do think it can be strengthened. I think it's a good start. I don't think it's the end-all to the problem. I think it restricts it to a certain extent, but I do have a list of various things I found out that I would like to include, because I think enforcement of the ordinance is the key. If you don't enforce an ordinance, then you don't have one. You go back to the old ordinance, it's so vague. How you going? You're not going to be able to enforce that anyway. So they're going to just go. They're going to be popping up anyway, only not going to be regulated. So reluctantly, I would be voting at this particular time to support 405. But as facts come to me, my mind's always open. I'm always looking for new information or new perspective on things. What I believe now, I didn't believe 10 years ago. And what I believe tomorrow might not be what I believe today. If you're closed-minded on it, you're never going to move forward. You have to be able to take information in and change your mind and alter your thinking as you go. But right now, I would be supporting 405. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Bill?
Well, I think I'm sorry, I guess I did that. My apologies. My way I came on understanding of this is when this issue came up about vacation rentals, I didn't even know what they were. And so by listening to what happened in the council, by doing research, by listening to what the citizens say, I began to get an idea of what was going on, what the issue was, and what was upsetting people here. The interesting part of it is, and I think Lou was the last speaker and he'll agree, There's actually nobody on the council that was in favor of vacation rentals. What we're in favor of is limiting them to a great extent and to making sure that the town itself doesn't get involved with litigation, with lawsuits, or what's worse, defeating the 405 and as a result not having any regulation at all. It's like saying, I don't want the dog next door biting my cat, but if there's no law against the if there's no leash law, the dog gets out. I don't want this dog to get out. So 405, after I listen to everything, and that's my best trait, is to listen to people. After listening to everything, I had to vote in favor of it, and I'm still in favor of it, not because I want vacation rentals, but because I want to limit them. I want to make them restricted. I want to make them difficult, like Steve said, to be involved with it. The new ordinance would say, I really don't want to be involved with it. I mean, the stuff they got to do in order to start a vacation rental is awful. It's really a lot of stuff to do. That's what we want to do, and we really believe that we'll be able to keep this vacation rental under control, and I don't think we'll see very many, if any at all, very small numbers. So that's why I'm in favor of it. Look, watch this, I'll do it again. How about that, huh? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Frank?
Well, unfortunately, I never played the drums, Bill.
Oh, okay.
So I can't keep up with that. There's no question that vacation rentals is an issue that needs to be dealt with, and it's a complex issue, and like every complex issue, it has a simple answer. Let's just eliminate them. Unfortunately, like every other complex problem, the simple answer is simply wrong. Vacation rentals have become an emotional issue in Jerome, and emotions don't win a court case. Maybe we can agree on a few facts. The town council, to their credit, hired one of the two best land use attorneys in the state of Arizona. He didn't have a side in the argument at all. His job was to help navigate the council through the complex issue and ultimately keep us, all of us, out of court. And while justice is blind, it doesn't always agree. But consider the preponderance of the cases, the majority of all rulings. Courts do not differentiate between a one-year rental and a one-night rental. It's all considered residential use. The courts have stated that despite the fact that a different family is there every night, it's still residential use. All right, so we need an ordinance. Well, why don't we make one that just eliminate them? Well, there's a couple issues there too. First of all, the town of Jerome has legitimized and legalized vacation rentals in residential areas, residential zones, by issuing them business licenses. Our land use expert tells us that uses that were legal under prior ordinance become legal non-conforming uses, and they can continue legally. Oh boy, now what do we do? In a couple of weeks, the voters will decide. If it's voted down, the new town council will have a big issue to wrestle with. My personal feelings on this matter don't matter. What matters is that our quality of life, the quality of life that we enjoy, which is the reason that we all live here. Given the facts,
thank you.
Vacation rentals have to stay, but we need to regulate them.
Thank you, Frank. Chad.
For everybody that worked hard on getting this much information on both sides of it for me to go over. On Monday, I had the pleasure to vote no on 428. And I did that because I think that the ordinance is good, but it can be better. Obviously, everybody's here getting more information on it, and I think that if I was on council, I'm happy to tackle that and have everybody's opinion on it more so. Another concern is where are people going to live? If I was evicted, I don't know of any open other rentals really in town. And that number there needs to be some of those available for some movement in this town. I do see a positive to people coming and enjoying Jerome for longer times than just overnight or longer. I want to see that available to the people too, though. They want to experience what we experience as this community and have a little taste of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Douglas.
I strongly oppose Ordinance 405. My most basic objection is that 405 will legalize for the first time vacation rentals in Jerome's residential zones. This inappropriate change of use is unfair to neighboring homeowners and will result in a loss of residents that Jerome cannot afford. Our town's laws include a proper procedure for evaluating a proposed use with well-defined avenues of appeal. 405 bypasses proper procedure and shuts down the appeal process for vacation rentals that are now operating illegally. This effectively denies neighboring homeowners of their rights. 405 grants new property rights to vacation rental operators, rights which cannot be rescinded without running afoul of Prop 207. 405 is unnecessary appeasement granted to those who have asserted false property rights and threatened litigation. It is unnecessary because vacation rentals conform exactly to the current Jerome definition of a boarding house, which is a building or buildings containing central kitchen facilities and not more than 8 rooms where lodging is provided for compensation. Simple. Boarding houses are a conditional use in Jerome's commercial zone and are not permitted in the residential zones. The correct legal alternative to 405 is simply to enforce our existing zoning ordinance. The most egregious fault with 405 is that the ordinance itself blatantly violates the Jerome zoning ordinance. 405 sanctions the conversion of conforming single-family residential use into non-conforming commercial lodging. This violates Section 501c3 of our zoning ordinance, which states, "No non-conforming use shall be extended to replace a conforming use." Ordinance 405 grandfathers a use which was never legal to begin with. This is a new and dangerous interpretation of grandfathering which sets a deplorable precedent. 405 will not, as advertised, protect Jerome from further proliferation of vacation rentals. Allowing this use in the residential zones and then attempting to draw the line is naive wishful thinking.
Thank you. Lou.
Okay. From the beginning, I thought that vacation rentals are a commercial use, not supposed to be in the residential zone. The definition of a residence includes the element of intent, the intent to stay for a significant period of time and to function as a householder. With vacation rentals, the intent is to be gone in a few days, to simply visit. Transients use these dwellings, but no one resides in them, since that's what distinguishes them from bed and breakfasts, where there is at least a resident owner or caretaker. Ordinance 405 is an attempt by council to compromise with people who want to commercialize everything. Our zoning ordinance as it stood was sufficiently clear. Vacation rentals were not permitted in the residential zone. Compromise destroys zoning. Most of our townsfolk understand that and object. Key officers in Clarkdale, Sedona, Camp Verde, as well as both our county supervisors are on our side. Many communities, both in and out of Arizona, are fighting this same battle. We are not alone. Some communities have won. The counter-argument is if we enforce our previous ordinance, we will be sued. The courts reflect the will of the commercial interests. Defense will be difficult. Sedona's been fighting this for years, and they may lose. I understand. Courts fights are always tough, but we're here to defend and protect, and legal fees are a normal cost of our business. And early on, there was fear that we might not be able to show how vacation rentals could threaten our health, safety, or welfare. Now we have a long list of ways in which they are clearly harmful, and good evidence to back that up. This was presented in Ms. Ogden's memo of July 9th. No matter how we vote, someone will probably take the town to court. We might be there for some time at substantial costs, and the outcome is uncertain. Even with that in mind, or perhaps because of it, I'd rather fight for what I think is correct if the townspeople are on my side. So I'm going to vote for against Ordinance 405.
Thank you, Lou. We're now going to go to the questions from the audience. Each of the candidates will have 1 minute to answer these questions. Christina, so that you're prepared, you get to start with the first one, okay? So we'll start with you on this question. And the question is, part of the budget process is to vote on salaries and raises. It is common to do this by percentage. Over time, this can result with the person on the top getting a raise bigger than the person on the bottom's entire salary. The present budget reflects this push for income gaps and is increasing. How do you stand on this issue?
I don't know, it doesn't sound very fair to me.
Is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
Ann?
From time to time, bonuses are given. Yes, flat percent increase, which is what I've fought against on raising utility rates, increases the disparity between the top and the bottom. And yes, this is a good thing to address and deal with, but we have done comparisons of everybody's underpaid, but we've done comparisons with and found out which departments are more severely underpaid than other departments and try and bring the balance back up that way also.
Thank you. Nikki?
It is a difficult thing to tackle. When you talk about cost of living increases, they're always given in a percentage, so it's really quite logical to say, well, we'll address that cost of living increase with a percentage increase in salary. Another aspect to it is that it's hard to quantify raises outside of a percentage, because then you might be getting into favoritism, because you really would have to develop a detailed system of how you go about doing that. And as Ann stated, a lot of the times our higher positions, though more dollars going out in salaries, are some of the most underpaid positions when you look to other communities and what they pay those department heads and chiefs and whatnot. And those are positions that it's really important to keep around for many years for consistency purposes. That's something that the town has had trouble with in general. So.
Thank you. Abe?
Cost of living increase percentages are across the board, which is fine. That's cost of living, milk goes up, you raise it, you get a little bit of raise, that's fine. Bonuses for certain aspects of above and beyond their normal work duties are a little bit sketchy on that. As Nikki mentioned, other communities get paid a lot more for certain positions in Jerome. Well, Jerome's 400 people, and we have a small, we get a lot of tourists, but Jerome is a lot easier to deal with than, let's say, Sedona or Cottonwood or any of these other communities. To make their rates the same as those other communities, I don't think that's correct. So, there you go.
You're going to have to repeat that question for me.
Okay.
It was a long one. I didn't remember it all.
The question again is, part of the budget process is to vote on salaries and raises. It is common to do this by percentage. Over time, this can result with the person on the top getting a raise bigger than the person on the bottom's entire salary. The present budget reflects this push for income gaps. How do you stand on this issue?
Well, if I understand the question correctly, if if you have people who are already making more money than the people below them, then whatever percentage they get, yes, they're always going to, the percentage of a bigger salary is going to be a bigger raise. I do think there should be some more equity in the lower ranges to bring those salaries up, but to make them sort of equal where it's not a struggle with the budget, I think it'd have to be more of a rating system where an automatic percentage raise is included in the lower levels. But you're never going to, in my mind, in my business experience, someone who's making the big money, even if they get a smaller percentage raise, is probably going to end up with more cash in their pocket. And I can't tell you right now what my solution would be to that.
Thank you. Bill?
I used to work for the Union Pacific Railroad. I made a decent wage, And the owner, I should say the CEO of that company, made a wage of somewhere around 1,000 times more than what I made. I did not think he was worth that much money, believe me. Every time that it comes up, I've been at 3 budgets so far, I'm always somewhat against increasing any increase in income. But we have watched very carefully to make sure that we do not get big differences between the person who's making the least and the person who's making the most. And folks, believe me, you can look at the records. The person at the top is not making that much more than the person at the bottom. Nobody working for this town is making a lot of money. But we do keep track of it. And believe me, after my experience with Union Pacific Railroad, I'll be watching to make sure there's no big changes between the bottom and the top. Thank you.
Frank.
Well, I believe that every position should have a range, and the range is capped. And so that, at one point in time, will stop happening because the raises will no longer happen.
Thank you. Chad?
I would agree that a income gap between a higher level and lower level should be within fair, and whatever the job entails is raises for job performance and maybe not just entitled by time served in a position. That's it.
Thank you. And may I remind the candidates again, please speak closer to the microphone so that you can be heard. Douglas.
This is a super question and really provocative. I think that faced with giving raises to the staff at Jerome, I would shy away from a simple percentage across the board. I think it would be just to consider perhaps a compound salary increase where you had a partial percentage that was a cost of living increase and then something that reflected their work in the town. We have a very small community, and I think going with a simple percentage is just too easy.
Thank you. Lou?
I brought this up at the NACOG meeting a couple of months ago when all the governments in northern Arizona were doing their budgets. And the mayor of, I forget what his name, which mayor he is now, but one of them said, what we did is we figured out how much we were going to give a raise, like 1.3%, which is what we did. And we figured out what that would mean to our overall budget. It would be like $1.2 million or something for that. And we took that $1.2 million, we kept everybody at the same rate, and took that $1.2 million and divided it by the number of employees and gave each one an even part of it. So that the guy on the top still got a nice piece of change, but the guy on the bottom got an even nicer piece of change because he wasn't expecting it. They all got the same nickels and dimes. But so there are other ways of dealing with this. My sympathies are for the people on the bottom, obviously.
Thank you.
That's it?
That's it, sorry.
Okay.
Randall.
I have no problem with cost of living increases across the board as a percentage. I could only wish that in my working life I had been given raises as frequently as some of our town employees get. As for the bonuses, that has to be on an individual basis.
Thank you. This next question, Ann, we're going to start with you. And the question is, do you feel that the current police presence or police budget is too high, too low, or just about right?
I think all small towns suffer from an inordinately large police budget because of state laws requiring what kind of coverage every resident gets. The smaller the town, the more disproportionately large the police budget is. This is state law. We can't do anything about it.
Thank you.
That's about it.
Thank you. Nikki.
It might look like it's disproportionately high here. The good thing that the town has done is work to upkeep a court. So we actually do fund quite a bit of our police budget from those court funds, and that actually turns out to be, you know, less weighty on our budget than another small town without a court system.
Thank you. Abe?
I think Alan Muma has done a great job with the police department. He's respected with all the other communities around the valley and in the state. I don't know what the police budget is. I haven't looked into that. I do think he does hire qualified officers that are friendly and understanding of our town for the most part. And I don't know anything about their budget aspect of it, how much it is.
Thank you.
I will find out though, hopefully.
Steve?
I think the level of police enforcement is probably about right. I see they're pretty active these days. I know that from where I work. I see people being pulled over all the time. My only concern with that, maybe they're a bit too active. I'd hate for us to get the reputation of being a speed trap, because I see a lot more people being pulled over every day than I used to. But maybe we needed that. I don't know if that ties into potential revenue or what drives that. But if it keeps the public safe, I think we're pretty much at the top of where we should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I wish there was no police budget needed, but unfortunately it is. The good part of it is, for the most part, all of you citizens are not paying for it. It comes out of the, for the most part, it comes out of the sales tax and stuff. So the folks that get in trouble are the ones that, in one way or another, are paying for it. So yeah, it's about right. I hate to say this, but anybody that has to carry a gun to protect us, they're never paid enough. I'm sorry about that, but that's the way it is. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank?
I would say that based on chats I've had with the officers, they seem to be very high quality. So I think we're getting good people. I think our budget is adequate. I would only have one complaint, and that's the bicyclists that race down Mingus about 45 miles an hour through town at 6 in the morning. I wish somebody was out there right then to get them.
Thank you. Chad?
I'm not familiar with the exact police budget, so I can't speak on that, but what I will speak on is the observation that I've had with the current police department. I think it's good. I think there is almost a presence sometimes that's unnerving of like, whoa, is there about to be crime happening, or is there a cop looking over my shoulder? I don't like the idea of strict, necessarily speeding enforcement and people, oh, don't go to Jerome, you'll get a speeding ticket. But, you know, we walk across these streets and people blaze through this town. I would think that the police's priorities could be directed to a few things like that with all their money that they got. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Douglas?
The current police budget is about $1/3 which seems a little bit high to me, but I agree with Bill Finney that it is potentially a very dangerous job. A number of Jerome police officers have died in the line of duty, and there's always that potential. I think we have to be vigilant and look at that budget every year and decide if we have too little or too much coverage.
Thank you. Lou?
I just approved that budget, so what can I say? I certainly don't think they need more. On the other hand, if you're going to cut it, where do we cut? Do you mean get rid of a few cops, or do you mean pay them less? If you pay them, I've been through, as I said, 5 or 6 police chiefs and many, many more officers, and there are a lot of rummies out there, boy. There are a lot of bad cops, and we've been lucky to get what we got. I wouldn't want to try and buy them on the cheap. We pay as low as anybody in the state as it is, and we get what we pay for. They move on in 2 years or 3, but at least while we're getting something. We had one guy who tried to proposition a council member, Ann, remember? And we had another guy that left town with a bigamy charge chasing him out the door.
Okay. Thank you. Randall.
I know our many of our officers are paid under national averages. I'm surprised that Chief Muma is getting paid as little as he is, especially for the work that he does. I don't have a particular problem with the size of the police budget, except for a few details, but they're not important at this point.
Thank you. Christina.
To be honest, as a first-time candidate, I don't know much about the budget. Doug informed me just now a little bit of how much, which to someone that isn't really in the know sounds a little high. The local officers are nice. Lou pointed out he worked on it, so he knows a little bit more about what he's talking about. If I'm elected, I will definitely do all I can to read into it and put my input into it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. The next question is, it is a violation of the Arizona open meeting law for a quorum of council members, which would be 3, to privately discuss together any issue that is or may come before the council. If you were aware of this having occurred, what would you do? Nikki.
Well, I know that the town tries really hard to make sure that new council members are very prepared to deal with this and are very aware of this, and it's something that is always on the council's mind to be avoiding these types of situations. But if it were to happen, well, first, if I'm a part of it, walking away is the best thing to do if you happen to be in a group of 3 and the conversation strays. But besides that, I would say talking, letting the person know that that's not appropriate, and probably going to the town manager and maybe advising her that we need another training on this.
Thank you. Abe?
If I was involved in something like that and another council member walked up, I'd say, hey, we can't be doing this. Walk away, change it, be honest. If inadvertently somehow something got discussed, be open with everybody and just say, hey, this is what happened. And like you said, training would be great. Open meeting laws are very strict. Robert's Rules of Order, all that. And you just have to deal with it and communicate with people that it's not allowed.
Steve?
Well, I think that when you take a position on the town council or one of the boards, you're pretty much told and given information on what the open meeting law implies. So ignorance is not defense. If there's proof that 3 members of the council have been, in cahoots, what we want to say, and talking about business when they're not supposed to, and they know they're not supposed to, if it's against the Arizona statute, there should be a penalty or reporting mechanism already on the books, and it should be followed.
Thank you. Bill?
When I was first appointed to the council, I thought, oh boy, here we go, cigars and whiskey and talking about how things are going to be done. It didn't take very long before I learned about the open meeting law, and I said, well, that's all out there, that's old stuff now. It doesn't happen on this council. It doesn't happen with this manager. We don't see anything like that at all. The open meeting law just is sacrosanct. We make sure that nobody talks about business of the town in groups of 3 or more, because you all need to know what we're saying and thinking about, and it has to be done in an open meeting, and we're making sure that happens. If it doesn't happen, someone's going to get busted.
Frank?
If I was aware of a 3 or more meeting to discuss future items on the agenda, the only way I would know that is because I was one of the 3, and that's not going to happen. So it's not going to happen.
Okay, thanks. Chad?
If I were on town council, I'd be very up to date with all the laws so that I wouldn't break them. And if somebody nearby is, I'm going to go to the people that would handle that appropriately. So, thank you.
Douglas?
Open meeting laws are state law. If I observed such a meeting, I would immediately point out to these individuals that what they were doing was amiss, and depending upon their response, I would probably go to the town manager, possibly the town attorney.
Thank you. Lou?
Yeah, it's never been a problem in Jerome that I'm aware of, really, where you get a minority trying to run the game. It is dangerous now with the age of the internet because you can have that going on when nobody would know about it, really. But I don't have any indication that we've had any of that for years.
Thank you. Randall.
The subject of this open meeting law and has really drilled into us in the introductory meetings. You can't do that. If I was aware of that sort of thing happening, I would probably do what Doug has just suggested. I would find out what's going on and possibly take it to, well, certainly the mayor and the town manager, and possibly bring in the town attorney.
Christina?
I would follow the law to the best of my ability, and if I knew someone wasn't, I would take it to the appropriate authority.
And Ann?
This question points up how important it is for anyone new to council to get the training, participate in the training classes that will be available. If such a thing is happening, I would attempt to stop it, and I would, whether I was successful stopping it or not, make full disclosure to the manager and other council members.
Thank you. Our next question. Council meetings are sometimes held during daytime hours. Does your schedule have enough flexibility to attend these meetings? And Abe, you're up first.
Yes.
Steve?
Absolutely, yes.
I'm retired. I can be there anytime. Yes.
I am not retired, but I did ask my boss before I ran whether or not I could go to meetings, and he said yes.
I'll be at every meeting I need to be at.
I will too.
Lou?
Is it me?
Yeah, we're up to you.
I prefer to have them at night, but the meetings at night, but there are reasons to have them during the day for expedience, and a lot of times the council's fully aware that nobody's going to come to them anyway, so sometimes we do them during the day, but I prefer them at night where everybody has a chance to come. Is that the...
Randall?
I have a schedule where I can generally schedule around my work to make meetings. Occasionally I can't, and that's how it goes. But I try to make every one. So.
Yes.
I'm self-employed. I think I have a pretty close to 100% track record making meetings.
I do have a full-time job, but it's not a 9-to-5 situation. I've managed to attend all the daytime meetings that we've needed over the past 2 years, and I do still agree with Lou that we want to be having our meetings mostly in the evenings so that you all can attend.
Perfect, thank you. The next question, will vacation rentals be rezoned to commercial property if the ordinance is passed? And we start with Steve.
You're asking for a declaration of if the current ordinance is passed?
If the ordinance is passed.
I believe according to the ordinance, if the ordinance is passed, there'll be certain residential areas that will be open to vacation rentals. I believe a total of 6. If you're asking what the ordinance says, I believe that's correct.
Okay. Bill?
According to the ordinance, no, they don't become commercial. They become a non-conforming use within a residential area. And the nice thing about it is if the person who has the vacation rental moves away or whatever, it changes the use of it, it goes away.
Well, the answer is no.
Okay. Chad?
My understanding of it is the answer is no.
I think that it would be a rezoning of our residential neighborhoods to mixed use.
Lou?
I think if the ordinance is passed, zoning is pretty well dead. I say I think that if 405 passes, the concept of a residential zone is pretty well dead.
Okay, thank you. Randall?
Strictly speaking, no. The residential use residential areas would not be rezoned. So no. But the question, it begs the question of commercial uses in the residential zone, which could open a can of worms.
Christina?
If we're going to have that sort of thing, it should be in the commercial areas.
Ann?
This is not a rezone, and it would not change other bans against other commercial uses in the residential zone.
Nikki?
So the ordinance is supporting a conditional use permit. So that would be a conditional use to operate as a non-conforming use in a residential zone, so no change of zoning. And the closest thing that you can look to in our code would be the bed and breakfast conditional use permit. There's a lot of similarities there, and we've been successful in implementing that.
Abe?
Repeat the question, please.
Sure. Will vacation rentals be rezoned to commercial property if the ordinance is passed?
My understanding of it is that it would change a non-permitted use in a residential area to a legal non-conforming use, which would be a vacation rental, which I consider to be a commercial enterprise because anybody can own them and it is commercial. And yes, it would change it would have a commercial operating in residential, but it is not going to change zoning. It just changes what is allowed in a residential area.
Okay, thank you. No, if you have a follow-up, please write it down. Our next question is, would you be in favor of returning to the commission form of government and eliminating the position of town manager, especially when we could elect or appoint 2 more council members because 11 people are interested in serving in Jerome at this time?
Wow.
Bill?
That's an interesting question about having more council members. No, I'd not be in favor of that, and here's the reason why. We're all volunteers. We're not professionals. We're not trained in bookkeeping or taking care of sewage lines or anything like that. By having a manager, a professional who knows what's going on, it makes it much easier for us to actually have a government, a full service government, which we have, that works the way it's supposed to. And we're making great progress as a result of it. No, I'm not in favor of going back to the councilor system.
Frank?
Well, first of all, they'd have to make the dais bigger in the town council to hold 7 people. I'm not opposed to looking at that idea, but my upfront initial thought is that it's not something that would probably work out.
Chad?
I would not agree with switching to that form of government for the town of Jerome.
Douglas?
It's my understanding that we couldn't legally switch back to that form, but I would be in favor of retaining our current system with the town manager.
Lou?
I've seen both the commissioner form and the manager form. It depends on who the manager is. If the manager is good, fine, and it's wonderful. It's very good because we've had managers who are alcoholics and we have had managers who are very good. We've had councils that didn't know what their head from their tail, and they were terrible, but most councils are good. So it all depends on who the personalities are, I think.
Thank you. Randall?
We're fortunate to have a very talented town manager. She's a very capable, knows a lot of the laws that I would have no idea were necessary for doing business. At this point, I would not support changing the town manager status of Jerome.
Christina?
Most of the time when you have a manager, it's someone that knows what they're doing, is a professional, and it sounds like the guys in the know believe in her, so I would have to sway in that direction also.
I've forgotten what the second part of the question was.
Okay. Would you be in favor of returning to the commission form of government?
Yeah, I remember that part.
Okay, well, and eliminating the position of town manager, especially when we could elect or appoint 2 more council members, because 11 people are interested in serving Jerome at this time.
Okay, we couldn't get a change of our code passed before the election in enough time to add 2 people to the council. That can't happen. And under state law, we cannot revert to commissioner form of government. We are blessed with a really good town manager. I hope the majority of you have noticed the infrastructure progress moving forward, that enormous infrastructure progress lately, and that's because of the functioning of the town manager.
Nikki?
So when we look at updating or adding to our code, enforcement is always a question of concern, and I feel like it's really up to our staff to bear the burden of enforcement in town, and I think we've seen great strides in progress since going to the town manager form of government. I fully support continuing in that direction.
Thank you. Abe?
I think the management form of government adds more consistency to the projects that happen in town. If they are there for long-term goals get met a lot more than different council members coming in on a commissionership form.
Steve?
Even if we legally could go back to the old commission way, I would be against it.
The next question. What is your position regarding annexation? Specifically, should the Douglas Road area be zoned for a restaurant or other commercial uses? And Frank, you're next.
I'm not sure which part of Douglas Road we're talking about, but all the way to the State Museum, I would not encourage that to be rezoned commercial. If that's the question, all the way from 89A to the museum, I don't think that should be commercial.
Chad?
I would be against rezoning anything to additional commercial use in Jerome.
Yeah, the town spoke about annexation back in 2007, and they said no to it. We would have to look really very carefully before reviving that. I don't think it would be a good idea to put a commercial use down on that lower area of our town.
Lou?
The question is about annexation, is that right?
Excuse me?
The question is about annexation?
It is. What is your position regarding annexation? Specifically, should the Douglas Road area be zoned for a restaurant or other commercial uses?
I'm very leery of annexation, particularly down around the state park, because the properties there are huge. There's a 400-acre plot there, and if you aren't careful, you suddenly might have hundreds of houses sitting out there. We have water and they don't, and we have to be careful not to commit to provide utilities to a huge area that some developer might come along and say, hey, we're now part of your town, and so you have to supply us with water. And water's gold in this part of the world, and it's going to be even golder, I think. So I'm very leery of annexation.
Thank you. Randall?
Yeah, I agree with Lou. I would be against annexing it specifically for the purpose of creating commercial areas down there, mostly because of the water situation, yes.
I would also be against annexing that area for commercial use.
I'd like to annex to the town limits of Clarkdale, but to keep it from commercial use. But the annexed properties would have to agree to something like 1 house per 20 acres or whatever kind of restrictions we'd want to put on it. So yeah, this is a big hairy danger zone, and I'm adamantly against having a commercial zone on the Douglas Road, because that would make use of town water, town sewer, town police, fire, and no income tax for the town. And if they do a restaurant and bar there, they're going to have drunks driving on the State Park Road. Think of that road in your mind, you know. And then if they're trying to avoid the police, they're going to be coming up this dirt road over here. You know, no. Thanks.
Nikki.
I'm curious why these two questions were lumped together as one, because they seem to me very different pieces. First, to answer the question of annexation, in 2007 when annexation was discussed, large tracts of land were involved in that project, and that was voted down. I believe that it is responsible and logical and makes complete sense to annex our service areas, you know, specifically because we need residents who can serve on things like council and who can be represented by council who, say, live at the end of Dundee, etc. I think it's interesting and slightly embarrassing that our historic state park is not within town limits. But that moves on to the second piece of the question. I don't feel that they're terribly related, and I haven't developed a strong opinion on the commercial zoning of that area. I don't know how interrelated they are.
Abe?
I thought the area at the end of Douglas Road was industrial because it's an old mine. So I did not know that it was zoned, I guess, residential in the county because it's an industrial area. So it's a mine, it's industrial. I don't think that annexing any more land and being responsible for the sewer and water for infrastructure would be beneficial to the town.
Steve.
I think the proposition of annexing anything, any partial land, would have to be taken very slowly and very carefully for the pros and cons and the value to the town. But specifically to Douglas Road, I would say no, I would not be in favor of any annexation or any commercial development down that road.
Bill?
You folks are being misled a little bit. The real question of the question was, because it's two pieces, was if we annex that area there, would we allow that big building that's down there being redone to turn it into a nightclub? That's the real question. We don't own that property. We don't have any business in it. It belongs to the county at this time. I have no idea what the zoning is. Don't care. It's not ours. So there is one piece of property I agree that we should, with the mayor, that we should annex, and that's our own sewage plant. It doesn't even belong to us. It belongs, as far as zoning and everything goes, it belongs to the county. That's not right. Annexation is something that's going to come up in the future, and what that thing is going to be is there is a big bear in the woods. That big bear is Clarkdale. They're involved all the time with annexation. If they annex us, annex all those mining claims right up to our borders right there, we have no control. And we may have great big subdivisions down there. They'll provide the water, but we'll have to provide the roads. It's something we're going to have to address in the future, but not now.
Thank you. We have a follow-up question related to vacation rentals. Yavapai County says no to vacation rentals because it is a commercial use. How can you allow a commercial use in a residential area, and will commercial property tax apply? Chad, you're up first.
I will find out about that if it comes before me as council, while I'm on council. Thanks.
Commercial uses per se aren't prohibited in a residential zone. You can have a bed and breakfast, you could have daycare, there are various things. But vacation rentals are an inappropriate use. They threaten the residential development in the zone. So I would say they should not be allowed. Did I answer the second part of your? question?
I guess. Lou?
Okay, I don't have any problem with residential rentals in the commercial zone. But I agree, I don't think I think it is a commercial use, and I don't think it has any place in a residential zone, period.
Randall?
The use of vacation rentals, my architecture background informs me that the more transiency that you have in a neighborhood, the worse off the community is. Speaking specifically to as whether it's commercial or not, well, we have bed and breakfasts are commercial, home businesses are semi-commercial, not, they're not zoned commercial, but so I don't know exactly how to answer that question.
Thank you. Christina?
Repeat the question?
Excuse me, repeat it?
Yes, please.
Yavapai County says no to vacation rentals because it is a commercial use. How can you allow a commercial use in a residential area? Will commercial property tax apply?
I say no commercial use in the residential area, and I'm not sure about the property tax.
Ann?
I'm going to quote Grady Gamage on this point. The weight of is this a legal use under the existing ordinance in a residential zone? The weight of authority in the U.S. would say that it is. Arizona is one of the most pro-property jurisdictions in the United States. What this is based on is that it is still being used in a residential way. It's the courts, as I said before, compare it to renting a person's house out and not to hotels.
Thank you. Nikki?
Okay, we have Curtis in the audience, so he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the way that Ordinance 405 addresses vacation rentals isn't too dissimilar from the way that the county addresses them. They say, no, until somebody comes before the council or the Planning and Zoning Commissioner and asks for a legal non-conforming use. They know that it's not permitted until they go before the county and ask for permission, in which case the county is allowed to grant them permission. So we've essentially just added some more regulations on top of what that yes answer would look like. So it's a little bit even tighter than what the county says. As far as the commercial property tax, I would guess that it would not be a commercial tax because it's not being rezoned, but that's not to say that we couldn't implement a bed tax that would apply to that.
Thank you. Abe?
It's my understanding that Yavapai County loops vacation rentals into a commercialized areas, or is a commercial building or use, sorry, I'm tired. A commercial use is because they have a definition for lodging. And so therefore they establish a definition for lodging, and lodging is not allowed in a residential area, and so therefore it is commercial use because they're making money off of it of 30 days or less. And I think that's how Yavapai County does that. I'm not positive, but that's my understanding. And as sales tax goes, if there's certain fees in our 405 that wanted to get passed of $250 or $350 a year for a CUP conditional use permit, that's like one night's rental, which is just way understated of how much money a vacation rental could make. So somehow we'd need to make something off of them. So.
Steve?
Well, I don't know what the Yavapai County ordinance say, and I'm not like Abe, I haven't really looked at that, what their commercial laws are. I would say that I think this is the key legal question. Is a vacation rental in a residential area commercial or residential? And as Ann said, and as this Gamage guy said, and I'm not an attorney, they say it is, as long as it's being used as intended, even though it's not being used by the person who owns the property and it turns over every other day, it's still residential use, and that would mean that the tax rate would be residential.
Thank you. Bill?
Could you read it one more time, the question?
Sure. Yavapai County says no to vacation rentals because it is a commercial use. How can you allow a commercial use in a residential area? And will commercial property tax apply?
I think I've got the question. My answer would be that we're not Yavapai County, we're Jerome, and we're trying to protect ourselves, not Yavapai County. So the answer is the reason why we can do it is because we need to. 405 is needed. The other one was the commercial tax rate. I think that what we're saying here is the real estate rate, I assume, and we don't decide that. That's decided by the county assessor, not us. So I don't know. I don't think so.
Thank you. Frank?
Well, again, we're not Yavapai County, we're Jerome. We set our own standards. I don't let other people set my standards for me, I set my own. And it's not zoned commercial, therefore it wouldn't be at a commercial rate.
Thank you. The next question. Will you push for new water and sewer lines, yes or no, and why? Douglas.
That's a tough one. I mean, there are some excellent sewer lines in town and some that definitely need to be replaced. I think we have to take them in the order of their impact on their damaged infrastructure, and that's all I can.
Thank you. Lou?
Is it up here now? Is the question up here now?
Yes, Lou.
Okay. Water and sewer lines. Yeah, we need, there should be a program to replace all sewer lines and all water lines over a period of time. I was reading the other day, New York City, it's 300 years when you replace a water line or a sewer line, unless it goes bad. Obviously, that's absurd, but there's more to it than buying a piece of pipe. You got to have a crew to put it in. We'd have to double our crew to seriously make a dent in replacing water and sewer lines on a planned program. We work as fast as we can right now, and I just don't see that we're going to be able to do that. I'd like to, but does that mean that you want us to double or triple your water and sewer bills? We'd have to get a grant, and at the moment, Washington is not giving out grants for that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Randall?
To completely redo the water and sewer lines in one fell swoop would take a tremendous amount of money. Naturally, we have to deal with the cases as they come up, and I understand that we do face a lot of challenges with our aging system, so those need to be replaced. We need to find the money to deal with these emergencies and such as they are when they come up.
Thank you. Christina?
Seems like that's what we've done up till now. When we've had an issue, then we deal with it. I read recently that there's pipes in Boston that are made out of wood, and I thought Jerome had old wooden pipes too. So in getting as many grants and doing as much as we can, that sounds awesome. But like Lou had said, we usually try to fix what's broken and then go from there. I don't see really hiring a whole nother crew. It would be nice, though, to get them all fixed.
Thank you. Ann?
I'm sure most of the audience knows that we've had problems that were stand for decades with water and sewer pipes, and that this lately we've been actually able to replace some of those lines, and we do it piecemeal as a section. As we get enough money to replace a section, then we pick the most chronic section to replace, and that's how it goes, unless we get like perhaps an angel that wants to donate some billions to the town for infrastructure.
Nikki?
If you don't push for new water and sewer lines, they generally push back a little bit, and it's not pretty. So it affects our budget no matter what. The town's done a really good job of prioritizing which parts of our infrastructure need the most attention, and just within our means addressing those as soon as we can, and always prioritizing infrastructure in the budget. I think we are ahead of the curve, certainly compared to our historical curve, and I think we need to continue to head in that direction.
Thank you. Abe?
I know that a lot of water and sewer lines have been replaced throughout the years in town. I've dug out really bad water lines and seen them. I think the town does a good job on the town crew of prioritizing which areas are the worst affected and the most problematic, and trying to save up or set aside budget money to get new sewer lines or do that project or hire a contractor to do certain areas. It would be a priority to have things like that done in the problematic areas. So.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, when I reviewed the plan works per street, the one common theme I came across was sewer and water lines. I think they should be prioritized. I think as part of the aging infrastructure I mentioned earlier, it needs to be addressed as the budget would allow. Do we need a long-term plan on that? I know we can't squeeze them all in a certain period of time. Maybe we need to think forward and have a forward, 5-year, 10-year plan, whatever it might be, if one's not already in place to take care of those. But I do think they're important. I do think they should be pushed whenever possible.
Bill?
I think what the questioner was asking was, when it referred to new pipes and stuff, replacement of bad pipes, I think is what they meant. Anyway, as I said in the opening statement, I'm always in favor of an increase in the ability of our infrastructure. When I turn on the water, I want it to come out clean. When I flush the toilet, I want it to go to the right place. And that's basically what it's all about there. Now we're looking at something new. We're looking at flood problems. And we are actually working on that now to try and figure out a way to keep people's houses from becoming flooded, because part of that infrastructure is drainage. And it's not something that's been addressed before, because it hasn't been one of those July 3rd floods very often. So yes, I'm in favor of replacing the old beat-up pipe with new stuff, so we don't have to worry about that, you guys turning on the water and getting the wrong stuff. Thank you.
Frank?
As I said in my opening statement, our infrastructure is aging, and we need a solid, well-thought-out plan on how we're going to prioritize the maintenance, repair, and replacement of our components, and how we're going to finance, how we're going to pay for it.
Thank you. Jed?
I'd be in favor of replacing, repairing, working on new water lines. The fire department, I'm sure, would appreciate that, and I'm sure anyone that's got low water pressure would appreciate higher, better water pressure. Thanks.
Okay. The next question. The recent approval of an industrial wire of rock wall at 5th and Center Street has done permanent damage to the historic character of Jerome. And this, I'm going to sort of word it a couple of ways. First of all, if you were on the council, why did you vote for it or didn't you vote for it? And if you are not currently on the council, what are your thoughts about the action that was taken? And we're starting with Lou.
With me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand a word of the question. I mean, I've got reverberation hitting me in the ear. It's very hard to hear your because of the speakers.
Okay, I'll try again. The recent approval of an industrial wire rock wall at 5th and Center Street has done permanent damage to the historic character of Jerome. Can you hear me?
No, I can't understand you. I can hear you. You're overwhelming me. I just can't understand your words. I'm sorry. There's some kind of a weird vibration going on here. Thank you. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, the recent approval of an industrial wire and rock wall, at Center Street, has done permanent damage to the historic site. Okay. Thank you. This relates to Gabby on walls, I assume. Yeah. The process of building gabion walls, which are rocks in a wire frame. Is that, I believe that's what we're talking about here. Apparently, the one that was put in on 5th Street is already showing damage at its base. Some of the wires have broken, or I'm told, although I have not inspected it. If that's the case, I read up on them when they were first proposed, and the life expectancy was I was told was 50 years. 50 years in Jerome is not a big time frame if it doesn't last more than some of these rock walls we have around here have lasted much longer than that. At the time, I thought it was not a good idea, and I still don't think it's a good idea to use gabions within the town, the populated areas. There may be some point in doing it in, I see them putting a gabion wall in that walkway between the 300 level and town. I guess it'll work. We'll see what happens. But I don't think gabions are basically a short-term fix as far as I can see, even though they're very popular these days, and if they're done with a lot of heavy metal, they're probably better than if they're done with chain link or cheap wires and stuff. So, thank you.
Yeah, the question of the gabion retaining things went through design review, and they okayed it. It wasn't really a part of the concern that was brought before the board. Personally, I think it would have been a better solution to do something a little bit differently. The engineers spoke at the time about how long they would last, and it sounded like a wildly inflated estimate to me. So personally, I would, if I had been in the design review, reviewing the thing in the first place, I probably would have spoken for something different.
I'm not an expert on walls. I have not seen the wall, but in my opinion, we should try to do it as historically eye-pleasing as possible. On the other hand, a lot of these old dry stack walls have been around over 100 years, as Lou has pointed out. So for them to tell us that these newer walls are going to last 50 years with ugly metal, where it doesn't look anything historic and the way the town likes it to be, I would not be keen on that.
I don't like gabion walls, and if I had been on design review board, I would have voted against it.
I'm not remembering how everybody voted that night, but I believe I did vote to not approve it, but rather uphold the decision of our previous board. So this wasn't something that came directly to council. It went to design review, it went to planning and zoning. Our building inspector looked at it. There were sets of plans drawn up by engineers. All people who I feel more or less are a little bit more capable of making those decisions. Another aspect that really is the concern at heart is historic preservation, and if our status as a historic town is in danger. We definitely contacted SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, and they responded saying that there was no risk at our losing our historic status over using gabion baskets. So I basically deferred to the other boards and supported their decision.
The historic value of gabion baskets, that's up to the design review board, and if they approve it, as a council member, I would support our other boards and our other members. It's their decision. If it comes to us, they made the decision, and as long as it's legal, I support it.
Okay, well, I'm going to plead ignorance on this one. Even though I am on the design and review board, it might have happened before my tenure. I believe any structure in this town should be brought back to the original historic look whenever possible. unless for safety reasons that's not possible. On this particular wall, I'm not too familiar with what the problems really were, so I couldn't really say how I would vote on that.
The gabion baskets and everything are not actually new to Jerome. There's a number of places where it's been used elsewhere. It's new to that neighborhood. I don't know whether they're good or bad or indifferent. I'm not that kind of an engineer, but I mean, I drove trains. That's all I did as an engineer. So, and I don't think the council voted on it. The board did. They took care of it. And we support those who are appointed to the boards. And that's the way it is. One thing to keep in mind, 20 years from now, people walk through there and say, wow, look at those old baskets right there. You know, they're historic. Everything becomes historic eventually. Just right now it's new and a new thing. I don't know. You know, I don't know if they're good or bad. We didn't vote for it though.
As a council member, I would have supported the design review board. However, if I was on the design review board, I would look at that very carefully and probably not have approved it.
I would have selected a different design for that wall that we're speaking of. I think a reason we all live here and a reason I enjoy is that things are old, and the old architecture and funkiness and people built with what they had when they had it is one of the things that people take pictures of when they visit our town. I would support whatever the design and review came up with. If it came in front of council, I would lean on the side of making it look old and rusty and Jerome-like. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think the gabion basket design belongs in our neighborhood. It looks shabby. It's not going to last 50 years. I'm sorry to hear, though, I was part of the appeal to council after the design review board came down, or planning and zoning, maybe both. And I'm sorry to hear that they simply deferred to the board, because our appeal was based on the merits of our discontent with that design. We're sorry we have it in our neighborhood.
Thank you. I am going to ask the questions using a microphone and then without, so that those of you up on the top level can hear them, okay? The question is, the town attorney, Bill Sims, also represents Tucson, Arizona. Are you aware of the situation there? If so, how can you, as a council member, justify employing Mr. Sims given the environmental issues he represents in Tucson? The town attorney, Bill Sims, also represents Tucson, Arizona. Are you aware of the situation there? If so, can you, as a council member, justify employing Mr. Sims given the environmental issues he represents in Tucson? Randall, you're first.
I'm not aware of Mr. Sims' involvement with the town of Tucson. In my interactions with Mr. Sims, I regard him as a very capable attorney. He's very knowledgeable. He doesn't try to necessarily steer decisions in one direction or another. He presents both sides of the issue and basically leaves it up to council. I support Mr. Sims as our town attorney.
I don't know Mr. Sims, and I don't know anything about his environmental dealings.
What Sims does for Tucson does not relate to what he does for us here in Jerome. He's been very good. He's far surpassed the work that we got from the previous law firm that we had. That he is the attorney for the risk management pool, I think, is a very strong plus in our behalf also.
I would say Mr. Sims is one of the top land use lawyers in Arizona, and I really have quite a bit of respect for him because he's known for taking on towns that no other lawyer wants to take on. And you know, you might count Jerome in that basket on occasion, so I feel very honored that he's continued to be our lawyer, because there have been situations where I could understand why he would choose not to be. So I don't have any understanding of what's gone on in Tucson, but I know that he does not implement his own personal opinions, but advises councils, and so that's their council's opinions.
Abe.
I'm not aware of the environmental issues that Bill Sims is dealing with in Tucson or had dealt with in Tucson. I do not know Bill Sims, but any concerns or questions that any citizens have as a council member, I would look into them and make sure that it wasn't just on deaf ears. Look into it. Thank you.
Steve?
I don't know Mr. Sims. I'm not familiar with his involvement in the other area. If I was on the council, if that was brought to my attention, if I saw some conflict there, then yes, I'd have to look into that and bring it before the whole council to discuss.
I've been involved with the council now for three years, and Bill Sims has been involved all that time. I don't know what his politics are. I don't know if he speaks nicely to his wife. I don't know which church he goes to. I have no idea what his ecology ideas are. I do know that whatever town he represents them in a way that they wish to be represented. So whatever happens in Tucson stays in Tucson. He takes good care of Jerome, very good care, and I really don't care what Tucson is doing to themselves. I mean, I care, but I can't do anything about it, and I'm sure not going to do anything about it by firing our excellent attorney. Thank you.
An attorney's job is to represent his client, and as long as he is representing us excellently, I don't have any issues with what he's doing in Tucson.
I had the observation of Mr. Sims in a couple council meetings I was at, and from my brief observation, I felt that he was doing his job. Thank you.
I'm aware of Bill Sims' connection with Tucson, and I think our town needs a different attorney.
Bill?
I'm aware of Bill's dealings with Tucson. I mean, I know he's their attorney. I don't understand what's going on up at Tucson. It looks bad in the press, but we've looked bad in the press for a lot. So if you tried to judge Jerome from the Verde Independent, you'd have a lot of trouble. I wish for his sake he'd get out of that game with them, but I can't judge him on that. I can only judge him from our relationship with him here, and I think he's as good as any we've had. That I've had 5 or 6, some of whom I didn't like at all, and I think he tries to be to not take a position. I think he's a classic lawyer. You can do this or you can do that. If you do this, it goes this way. If you do that, it goes that way. That's the role he tries to play. I would hire him again.
Thank you. Out of 11 candidates, only 6 have consistently shown up at council meetings. Those who have not attended or only sporadically, why should you be elected? Those who have attended regularly, why do you attend? And this is obviously to invite also the incumbents to comment if they want, but it's really to the challengers. And so we'll start with Christina.
I should be elected to the town council because I would like to play a part in making decisions for a place that I've been born and raised in. I do love. I've been to 1 council meeting and I did learn a lot. I think that's all I have to say.
Anne, would you like to comment?
Every time I've put my hat in the ring, oh my. Excuse me, is that time off my time? Every time I put my hat in the ring, I've made sure I attend the council meetings so that I can hit the ground running if I do get elected, so I know what issues are happening, what projects are being scheduled, especially the budget meetings, which we've completed already, are important for somebody that aspires to council to help determine what things can get done during their term. Thank you.
I am in regular attendance of council meetings, and I enjoy it.
I've attended a couple council meetings. I'm involved in the town quite a bit and hear about the ins and outs of what is going on with the town council and the agenda items, and I just chose to start showing up as of recent, get involved.
I'm one of those sporadic guys. I've been to a couple. I don't camp out there and go to every meeting in town. I do keep up with the minutes and the agendas on the town webpage. To me, that kind of takes, no offense to anybody, takes the emotional content out of what's being discussed. I just want to see the facts. So no, I don't spend my evenings at the council meetings on a regular basis.
Council meetings are usually scheduled, but sometimes we have extra ones. Even if you're a regular council member, you upon occasion can't make them. Things happen. Births, deaths, graduations, things that are slightly more important, or you're in the hospital perhaps. And that happens, and that's called a excused absence. When the new guys get on the council, they're going to get a lot of help from the others that are already there. And they're going to help them catch up to speed so that they won't be lost and confused. And the nice thing is, every time something comes up, a new agenda item on there, everybody gets all the information they need to make a decision. So, what's the point? I don't think it's important that the new guys had attended all the meetings in the last year. They'll catch up, even if they've only been there to 1 or 2 meetings.
I've attended several council meetings. However, somewhat limited by the job I had at the time, and I couldn't get there in time to attend the meeting. However, I've recently changed jobs, and I have a lot more flexibility now.
Like I said, I attended meetings starting kind of right away when I moved here for different reasons. I've just enjoyed them. And I'm getting up to speed by attending every one before I'd possibly take a seat on council. And that's it. Thanks.
I've attended a lot of meetings because I realize as things draw near to the election that I have a lot to learn if I'm seated on council. There are a lot of things I need to know. I attended most of the budget meetings, and I was very impressed by how smoothly that process went. And I was daunted by the notion of how difficult it would be to go into that process cold. It's going to be a challenge next year. I do want to mention, though, that one thing that I've learned over the last couple years is that you have to attend these like planning and zoning meetings. Even if I'm on council, I plan to go to every single planning and zoning meeting that occurs because I've realized we have to keep a really close eye on these people. So I urge you to help and to go to those meetings, check the agenda. Sometimes it's important to catch things that maybe are peripheral to the agenda, but please participate. Thank you.
Is this on? Yeah, I think it takes months to figure out what's going on in town hall. Once you're in there, I'd say at least 6 to 9 months before you know what you're doing at all. And so the longer you put it off, the longer it's going to take. If you hope to have any meaning in your term in office, you'll be lucky to know what's going on by the time you're up for election again.
When I ran for office last time, when I had decided to run several months ahead of time, I started attending meetings of the council and the planning and zoning and design review just to come up to speed. I felt it was the right thing to do, and I'm encouraged by the number of folks that are running now who have been attending meetings on a fairly regular basis. And I think that's a very good sign.
Thank you. This is our last question for the evening. The Jerome zoning ordinance says that residential areas are for single-family use. In what way or ways does Ordinance 405 protect our single-family neighborhoods? Can vacation rentals be restricted to single-family use? Would you like me to repeat it? Yes. The Jerome zoning ordinance says that residential areas are for single-family use. In what way or ways does Ordinance 405 protect our single-family neighborhoods? Can vacation rentals be restricted to single-family use? And this is the last question for the evening. Anne, you're up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that can be restricted to single-family use. It doesn't affect the zone. This ordinance does not affect the zone requirements.
So I feel like the ordinance protects single-family zoning or R1 zoning in many ways because, okay, so just a few tidbits on the ordinance itself because it is a little bit confusing to read. If there are existing vacation rentals that would then become legal non-conforming uses if the ordinance is sustained, those actually count as a part of the total number in that neighborhood, which is currently in our ordinance written as one vacation rental per neighborhood. And so that really limits, in fact, many neighborhoods would see a growth rate of 0% in the number of vacation rentals that they would see in their R1 zone. And so that really reduces the impact on that single family neighborhood and also prevents other vacation rentals from moving in at all. And I suppose, well, you'll have to read the ordinance, and I really encourage you to do that. Don't just take what you hear here tonight, but really read the ordinance. And it goes into very specific details as far as how many people and how many square feet equals how many parking spaces, and it can be kept down.
Great, thank you. Abe.
No, it doesn't. It's not limited to single family and vacation rentals. No, I disagree with that.
Okay. Steve?
Not sure I understood the entire question. I would say that the Ordinance 405, I think, attempts to protect the neighborhoods by limiting the number of vacation rentals in the residential areas. Whereas the feeling I've read is that without that, going back to the old ordinance, would just open the doors up for vacation rentals in general. I do think there's things in the ordinance, in particular sections I, 2, and 3, which allows the town council and planning and zoning to make additional conditions on vacation rentals. I think there's some enforcement applications that could be put into place to put the onus back on the vacation rental owner and put them responsible for keeping the harmony and the sanctity of the neighborhood intact.
I think what the question was is if someone, Joe New York comes in and wants to rent a vacation rental and he's bringing in some friends as well, can we make it so if he rents that, the only people that can come along with him are family members? I think that's what the question was all about. If it is, there's a strange little part of the bed and breakfast that says you can have no more than 3 rooms, and in that, they all have to be family members. It can't be separate. So maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure that's really what the question was that the questioner asked, but I think that's what it was. Can we keep it to just one family? Maybe.
Would you like me to read the question again? The Jerome zoning ordinance says that the residential areas are for single-family use. In what way or ways does Ordinance 405 protect our single-family neighborhoods? Can vacation rentals be restricted to single-family use?
405 attempts to protect single-family neighborhoods. through limiting how many there can be, in what areas, and also other specific requirements regarding parking and other things. I'm not sure what the last part means after hearing Bill's interpretation, but vacation rentals are not limited in the ordinance to single-family units, and I don't think that they can be limited because of multi-dwelling units in the commercial area.
Chad.
I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question either. I would think that restricting vacation rentals and with restrictions to how many families or how many people would definitely be a good thing to have in any ordinance, and keeping a single family neighborhood would be important as well.
Douglas?
405 will not protect single-family neighborhoods. I ran a couple lines short when I did my second statement, so let me go back to it. 405 will not, as advertised with 405, protect Jerome from further proliferation. Allowing this use in the residential zones and then attempting to draw the line, which is what this ordinance claims it will be able to do, is naive wishful thinking. These limits will be challenged and will fail as a violation of equal protection. If the whole idea with zoning is if you allow people in a zone to use their property a certain way, then everybody else in that zone should be allowed to do the same. And under those grounds, when we top out our neighborhoods with vacation rentals, the next developer that comes in is going to say, I want to do that too. You have to give me a rational basis for why I'm being denied, and we won't have one.
Yeah, the thing about a residential zone, the residency, as I said before, has an element of intent, an intent to stay and to be a householder. And this ordinance negates that. You don't have to be a resident to live in the residential zone or to be in the residential zone. You can be a transient, which is exactly what they are. They're leaving in 2 days or 3 days, and they intend to leave in 2 or 3 days. So this ordinance doesn't protect anything, I don't think. And furthermore, it worries me that it shows that the council and the town are willing to roll over anytime somebody with a lot of money comes along and says they want to do this or they want to do that. We want to put a bar in here or maybe a tannery. And if we're strong enough, you'll just go down the tubes. And the council is saying, yeah, that's true. We don't even want to fight.
Randall.
Yeah, on the face of it, the ordinance does not protect the strictly residential nature of the neighborhood. It's a housing dwelling like that. It's a residential use. The courts have recognized that. But as Lou says, the problem comes in the transiency part of it. And as to whether or not you're going to limit it to single family rentals, well, I don't see how you can do that, because if you have a vacation rental, then you're going to rent it to whatever group of people want to do that. So I don't think the ordinance necessarily protects the residential neighborhoods.
Christina?
I do not think that the ordinance protects the residential neighborhood. They do want to limit it, it seems like, by what Lou said, by rolling over with the next person that has the money that wants to be making more money, by allowing one per zone. Then there goes into the topic of how are we going to police that? How are we going to make sure that there's only one single, resident in there? So no, I do not think it is going to protect the residential areas. If we need to roll over, we need to come up with a new law that's better. Other states or other towns here in Arizona have denied this. Mesa is one of them. I think Scottsdale is another. They don't call it vacation rentals, but they're denying this kind of use in residential areas. So we need to come up with an alternative to allowing the vacation rental in our residential neighborhoods.
Thank you, candidates. We're now going to move to the section of closing statements by each of the candidates. We will go in the reverse order as to when the candidates gave their opening statements, which means we will start with Douglas Freund. And he has 1 minute.
Okay. Just a couple of rejoinders to what has been said. I want to point out that there's no Arizona case law in support of vacation rentals as a legitimate use in a single-family residential zone. There is Arizona case law supporting municipalities' rights to defend their single-family residential zones. I feel rather differently about our lawyers than Mayor Check. I think that the lawyers that we've consulted are pro-development and philosophically opposed to defending residential zoning. I was really disturbed by the suggestion from Mr. Gamage that in order to avoid litigation down the road once we've passed these laws, if somebody wants to sue us, we can simply issue a waiver, let them do the use, and then they won't sue us. Frank, business licenses don't legitimize a land use change. Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas. Chad Hembrough.
Thanks for showing up, everybody, and thanks for this opportunity to be part of the town, on council possibly. Thanks.
Thank you. Frank Vanderhorst.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that my biggest issue, a single issue with Jerome, and as we move forward, is sustainability. We need to sustain our quality of life. We need to have solid finances, and we need to make sure we sustain and protect our infrastructure. Thank you.
Bill Finney.
I want to be on the council because I've really learned a lot in the last 3 years, and I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to doing it for another 2 years. I want to be your representative. I want to hear what you have to say, and that's why I want to be on the council. By the way, waivers do exist all the time. I recently got a speeding ticket. I didn't have to pay the ticket. I had to go to school. It cost more money, but I got a waiver, and my insurance does not increase as a result of that. So these things do exist in all parts of our life, and Doug may be a little bit wrong about that. Another thing to keep in mind, everything that you're hearing from all of us is our opinions, and they're not being put forward in paperwork and stuff so that you can see that what we're saying is absolutely accurate, because sometimes we forget. Sometimes we forget exactly what we mean. Take with everything we say, take it with a grain of salt. That's not really fair to say to everybody else, but really, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next is Steve Pontius.
Okay, well, my reasons for running for council are not that noble. In fact, they're probably a little lame. Basically, some people approached me and said they like my temperament, the way I think things through, and that you should consider it. I really didn't at first, and then people kept telling me that last election only 5 people ran. So I figured, well, what the hell, you got to have at least 6. You got to have a choice, whether it's good or bad. Of course, I'd known this many people were going to show up, I may have sat this one out, but I'm already in, so I'm going to run it till it's over. As far as anything else I have to say, I've got no experience as an elected official. I don't know if that's good or bad. I do have an associate's degree in business administration and a Bachelor of Science degree in management. And I got 25 years of experience in heavy machinery support with customer support and inventory. And in my career, I was responsible for inventory levels of over $100 million. So I know the stress. This is not going to be that difficult for me. Sorry.
Thank you. Abe Stewart.
I've been here a long time. I want to be here for a lot longer. I care about this town. I know a lot of the things that go on are heated battles and different things. I think a lot of things get looked at on a micro level instead of looking at the big picture for the future. We got to think about what we care about and where we want this town to go. I would like to be elected to serve you guys in the town and just move forward and try to use a common sense, logical approach to issues that come up. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Check.
Well, while I'm really happy we were able to dedicate a lot of time tonight to Ordinance 405 and Proposition 428, I am really hopeful that this election won't be a single issue election. And so I want to say to you that I would look forward to serving the town of Jerome and all of the issues that we have to look forward to in the next couple of years, and realize that it's a very dynamic job, and I want you to know that I enjoy it, and I would look forward to serving you if y'all want me.
Ann Bassett.
Unique Jerome, our fierce individualism, our outrageous humor, our community involvement, our out-of-this-century rustic beauty are my home, my art, and my life. I've been preserving Jerome visuals in my art since moving here in 1980. To protect Jerome's residential lifestyle is why I'm running for council. I cherish our National Historic Landmark status. Our businesses are known worldwide for having unique handcrafted goods. Jerome is an escape from plastic, steel, and glass, the sterile modern world. We need to keep our historic integrity and individuality for our own quality of life and to continue to please visitors. I love Jerome because it's a community, a family, and a beautiful place to live and create art. Differences in lifestyle, culture, and opinion are relished. Volunteers are the lifeblood of Jerome. Continue to use my many years of experience and dedication on Jerome Town Council. Vote Ann Bassett. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Barber.
We need unity and community-centered leadership for the future of Jerome. If we work together, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. If we stand together, there is no onslaught we cannot overcome. Thank you.
Randall Hunt.
Jerome is a very special little place, as we all know, and the challenge before us is to keep this quality of life that we enjoy here as Jeromans. There'll be a lot of complex issues coming up this next term, and it's very important that the people who serve on council have open minds, have no agenda, and are willing to roll up their sleeves and do some extra work and accomplish what we need to accomplish. So,
thank you. And finally, Lou Courier.
Hey, thank you for coming. I hope we cast some light on and helped you figure out how you're going to vote. For my part, this last couple of years has been divisive and much more so than usual. I'd like to see that get back together. I'd like to see us come up with a council that represents all the different elements: male, female, wealthy, still struggling, shopkeepers, artists, everybody. As many elements as you can find. If somebody has 4 of those elements, that's a good bet on that one. Try and get them all together. Try and get us a good council. But I'm tired. Have a good night.
Thank you. On behalf of the Jerome Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters of the Greater Verde Valley, I would like to thank all of the candidates for being here this evening and for sharing your insights and your information. And I would like to thank you, the audience, for participating, attending, for sharing your questions. I'd like to make note that there is voter registration information and voter information on the back table, plus any of the candidates who brought information, it is also back there. To remind you that early voting ends this Friday, August 15th. And to remember if you are registered non-preference or independent, you may still vote in the primary election. When you go to vote, you just need to ask for the specific ballot that you want. So if you want to vote, please do. Again, I'd like to thank you, and I have a quick favor to ask. We have the responsibility of putting all the chairs and tables away, so if you wouldn't mind helping to put a few chairs back on the thing back there, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.